Welcome to the Greater Meaning Podcast, where Bible stories come alive at last.
This is so bad.
Dive into your word, let your faith be cast.
Nobody will ever
Join
listen to
us on this journey, learning from the past.
Man, that's so bad.
That's going to make people turn this off. It's going to be so ridiculous, but...
That's the worst thing ever.
I don't know what to tell you. I downloaded the wrong one, okay?
It's all right.
The other one...
We're still learning. It's only 41 episodes into
Well, welcome to the Greater Meaning Podcast, guys. This is your co-host, Nathan, along with my other co-host, Josh, and then our leader...
We're all equal co-hosts, but
We're not at all.
Welcome to the Greater Meaning Podcast, the podcast where we take you through...
Our pay is very different. One guy makes a lot more than the other two.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you're getting paid to do this?
I am.
Paid in sandwiches.
I
Might
think
as well pay him.
we need to have a meeting.
Oh, man. Well, like Nathan said, welcome to the Greater Meaning Podcast, the podcast where we take you through the stories of the Bible from beginning to end in chronological order. We have a very exciting deviation from the standard book that we were going through.
Because it's chronological.
Because, again, we do emphasize our best attempts at moving chronologically through the narrative of the Bible to show Jesus Christ throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament and God's plan of salvation through him for all humanity. So we are currently in the book of Judges, and just finishing up with the story of Deborah, I thought it would be cool if we kept on that heroine train, as in like female figure,
female winner,
female hero.
Heroes. Yeah,
not the other way to say that word, which I kind of thought about right
and
now.
In honor of her, I'm in my mom era.
Which
hat.
Ruth wasn't a mom until the very end of the story, but I guess it works for Naomi.
Well, it's Minister of Motivation.
Minister of Motivation, weird, but okay. I
will say, do not try graham crackers with Ghost energy drinks together. Not a good mix.
That's all Josh is living off of after working a solid 14 hours probably today on physical labor.
I don't know.
Just that's what Josh.
I'm ready to go home and deliver labor.
You deliver what?
His wife's
baby.
Baby.
Is she due today?
No, she's due on Monday.
Oh my gosh, she's really about to pop.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you guys. This is the last leg. Super exciting. What is this, number 5, you said?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's the last leg. I really don't know anymore.
Yeah, you never know exactly when it's going to. It could be right now, and she's calling you frantically, and we're in the middle of recording a Bible podcast episode.
I thought you were talking about like last child.
No. How many are you planning to have? I meant of this
That's what I mean.
current
I have no
pregnancy.
idea.
Oh, okay.
No
well,
idea.
I mean, God bless you and the 8 children you're probably going to have, like your parents before
You're just
you.
going to keep popping them out until you can't no more?
As fast as possible, too. They're all young.
I'm going to try to have so many that I can donate some. You get a child. You get a child.
Oh, man. As long as you're happy, and I know they're healthy, so there's no doubt about that.
You know, I mean, statistically, one of them's going to be like a tyrant.
And one of them's going to be very successful, and the rest are probably going to be just regular people. Just regular Joes.
What happens if one of them...
Well, this one will be
rebellion?
named Joe.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
Well,
doing Joseph?
no, her name is Jor-El, but her nickname will be Joe.
Like Jor-El? Like Jor-El? Like
Superman's father.
Yeah. But except it's a girl, and it's not that at all.
Well, we
Okay.
actually got it. You know how we got the name from while we were watching Smallville? Superman's
Stop.
father.
Are you serious right now?
100%.
You
Superman's
named your
father's
daughter after Superman's father from Smallville.
Well, it's his
or
name's
from that iteration of Superman, I should say.
Yeah, slightly, kind of. Joy looked into it, and she actually ended up really liking it, and it has some ties, I guess. I don't know.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
anymore.
I mean, okay, I'm not
It's
judging
not-
at all.
It's not Jor-El, it's Jor-El.
The problem is I was making a joke, and you're like, no,
like
but yeah.
L'Oreal, the shampoo and conditioner.
Like L'Oreal.
But with Joe instead.
Oh, my God. Joy's going to hear this episode.
I'm giving
after and
birth.
just be like,
We're giving birth to Superman's father.
That's fine. Hey,
in
man.
female form.
I like Smallville because Coldplay
when
became
she has a
popular because of
child,
Smallville.
if she names one of her kids Clark, that would be
Oh, she's going to now. It's going to be amazing.
has
And it's going
to.
to be a girl, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Wait.
To the story.
Yeah, so the story of the Book of Ruth. Like I said, we're going through the Book of Judges currently. We just finished with chapters 4 and 5, covering the story of Deborah and Barak and their defeat of the king of Moab. But we wanted to take a quick chronological sidestep. Now, the exact period of time that this takes place, the only thing we know from the Bible is that the very first verse says that it came to pass in the days of the judges, or when the judges ruled. But many biblical historians, biblical theologians place different places during the period of Judges for when the story of Ruth took place.
Ruth took place in the 80s, right?
Ruth took place somewhere between Othniel and before Gideon. And I felt like this is actually a really good place to put it because it's like right after Deborah. I didn't think it was as early as Othniel or Ehud. It could be somewhere around the same time as Shamgar and Deborah, but just for sanity's sake and because of how much darker the book of Judges is going to go, we get to kind of take a little bit of a breather. Nathan, what did you call it when we were talking about this before? Like this episode is like a respite from kind of like the...
And I never used the word respite.
I could have swore you used the word respite.
It's kind of like letters
kind
to
of
John,
a palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser.
Letters,
that's what you said.
Letters
palate
to
cleanser.
Boaz
Between books.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's write this book that does not mention God at all.
That's
or have any supernatural. Well, I mean, nothing supernatural happens
it talks
at all.
about God so much.
It's talking about God, but nothing supernatural happens.
I would disagree with you. Yeah, you're right. Actually, nothing supernatural happens. The Book of Ruth.
It's a notebook. It's a notebook.
It's like a sitcom episode.
It's definitely not. It's a beautiful... Okay.
It's like Friends.
It's not, though.
It's like Friends with a love story.
It's a beautiful telling of God's provision, redemption, divine providence.
Yeah, you can make all these subjects
It is
out of
absolutely what it is. Every chapter, the way it's written and the way these 4 chapters come together to tell the story of Ruth is absolutely incredible. I loved it. Diving through it, I've read it, and I never dived into it the way I did preparing for this episode. And I gotta be honest with you, it was very moving. Like, I was really into the book of Ruth while I was studying. Like, it was just, and it was also really cool to have gone through the books of like Leviticus and Deuteronomy and these heavy books that, because we dove into them and we kind of understood the background, those type of books and the laws, maybe some of them that were kind of like hard to get through at the time, a proper understanding added so much more layer and depth, or so many more layers and depth to this book. It's incredible. But Ruth,
I agree with you that it is a beautiful book.
Yeah.
But are you like, do you like watching a bunch of romance movies?
You know what? I'm a big
Okay.
rom-com guy.
No.
And
Yeah.
Name one.
That explains a lot.
rom-coms?
Yeah, name one.
What's
that you
my
like.
favorite rom-com? That's a good question.
Because I've never heard you talk about a rom-com.
I've watched them all.
Okay, name your favorite one.
I don't know. I'm slightly disappointed at the moment.
Why? You don't like rom-coms?
No. I mean,
I
if
don't
I
like
have to
rom-coms
watch
that
it,
much
I'll watch
either.
it with my wife. But that's only because
What's a weird one I like a lot that's not really that good? It's Adam Sandler one. It's 50 First Dates. That one's
That's the
hard.
one where
She has amnesia and she forgets every day, and then eventually to get there. I like that one a lot. That's probably one of my favorites. There's a lot of really other great ones, but
You don't like The Wedding Planner?
The Proposal was a really good one too. I think that's my wife's
Sandra
favorite.
Bullock?
And
my wife and I, we've decided, because I'm not really big into romance movies, and she's not big into like a bunch of blood and gore. So we've decided that we will meet in the middle, and
Little House on a Prairie.
Yeah, we'll do like Little House on the Prairie, Smallville. We
You'll
actually
do high
just
school
watched
dramas.
the Sherlock series, Sherlock Holmes, and then we watched Young Sherlock,
was a good one.
Young Sherlock is great.
I just wasn't really into it. I don't know. The Guy Ritchie's take on like the music and the pacing and everything was kind of weird to me. I don't know. I like the show with Benedict Cumberbatch. Anyway, let's get back into the Book of Ruth. We're going to get really into the weeds here. But
The Notebook.
Ruth as an individual is a highly... That's a
There's
romance
one.
movie. Yeah.
This is
I
this
thought it
is
was
that.
hilarious.
This is the Notebook. This is the Notebook.
This is
Boaz is out there making his boat for a long time, and he's ready to sail, and Ruth
man,
is going to
you're gonna
come
connect
sail
that
on the
dot.
boat with him.
the guy from the Notebook does not build a boat at all. He builds a house. Nothing to do with the water. There's nothing
Someone's
around
on a
water.
boat. I mean,
There's
I
nobody
don't
on
know.
the-
I haven't
They go out
seen
on a
it.
rowboat during like her. Just anyway. Okay, we got to get to the Book of Ruth.
I thought the Notebook was hilarious.
Oh my gosh! First the intro, and now we're just talking about
Well,
movies.
the rich guy like gets
The rich, good-looking
the
guy.
rich good looking is hilarious. He just leaves him high and dry.
Sometimes love the heart wants what the heart wants, which is that's why it says the heart is deceitful among all things. That's what the Bible tells us. So all those Disney movies are like follow your heart, do what your heart tells you. That's not biblical at all. That's actually against what the Bible says. You shouldn't just follow whatever your desires
Follow
are.
your brain.
Follow the words of God, the instructions
Yet,
of God. And that's
David
gonna
was
that's
David
gonna
was a
segue-
man after God's heart.
You know why he was after God's own heart? Because he prioritized God's laws and statutes and will over everything in his life. That's why. It's not because
David's
Over Bathsheba.
heart
Okay, I
was
mean,
basically in
Bathsheba.
sync with God's heart, so that whenever David followed his heart, he was actually following the heart of God.
speaking of David, this is actually comes how we come about the line of David is through Ruth. Ruth is an extremely influential figure as she is the great-grandmother of King David and the ancestor listed in the genealogies of Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 1.
Hey, you manipulated that. I'm just playing. I like that. This is a nice segue.
Well, you ruined it
That
now.
was
It would have
really
been
nice.
nice.
It seems like the bloodline of Jesus and David is constantly. I mean, well, we got Tamar, right? And then after Tamar, we have the spies, Rahab. We have Rahab. That just
Rahab
comes
is
in,
mentioned, and remember,
she-
she's a Canaanite.
she's a
right? And then
Canaanite, and now we have
Ruth-
another Canaanite,
We have
a
Ruth, who is a
Moabite,
Moabite. And
which is
remember
also which is kind of a Canaanite.
remember where the Moabites came about?
Moab.
Yes, from Moab. But remember back in the day, during the time of Abraham and Lot, and after Sodom and Gomorrah and his daughters in the cave,
Yeah,
came about the incestuous
it just seems like there was just a
assaults
bunch
that
of
his daughters had on him, and then had one. What?
the whole premise of a lot of the laws was for God to try to tell the Israelites to keep themselves pure and to keep the bloodline pure. Yet the whole lineage of Jesus is constantly, I don't know,
It's interwoven with the world, almost like to show that Jesus himself wouldn't just come for the Israelites, but through him, all the
he's
earth has
connected to
salvation.
everybody.
So you see how beautiful that is? The fact that even in the genealogies, the people in these figures that are mentioned are exactly like you said, non-Israelites, because Christ didn't just come for the Jews, he came for humanity. He came for
Yet
everybody.
it didn't follow the law of God, though.
Well, this is how we're going to go. So to start the book of Ruth, we're going to see exactly what it means for a person not to follow the laws of God. And we'll kind of be introduced to a character named Naomi. This is a woman who's married to a man named Ahimelech. And Nathan, if you want to read the first 5 verses of the book of Ruth, chapter 1, we'll get started and get into the story that is told through the 4 chapters of the book of Ruth.
That there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died.
Don't worry, he won't have to say his name too many
And
more
she
times.
was left and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah.
Jeez, Nathan, you have to get these names.
That's her name, Orpah.
It's like you're reading them for the first time.
And the name of the other, Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. So the women survived her 2 sons and her husband. I'm sorry I laughed
so
at
unf-
Orpah because it's usually Oprah.
Orpah. It's just ridiculous. Thank God that, and it's weird to be like, yay, they die, but you don't have to read their names anymore. And everybody else's names is pretty much easier in the book. But
Orpah? Oprah is such a commonly known figure, and I've said Oprah my whole life, and I have to see
I always thought it was Oprah in the book. And
No, it's Orpah.
yeah, it's like a orca, but with a P.
Yeah, or P-H-A.
Yeah, so a couple different things to note from the beginning of this book, right? Interesting that there was a famine in Bethlehem, mentioned there. They're Ephrathites, and they were there in the Promised Land during the time of Judges, and there was a famine. And what does that tell us about a place called Bethlehem, which its meaning, knowing that Jesus gets born there years later, it means basket of bread.
Elimelech. That's how you say that.
Yes. So, like, what does it mean for us that the place from what they're supposed to be in the promised land is in a famine? I'm not running a Bible study. I was just trying to gauge conversation.
What does it mean? There's a famine
in a basket.
You asked us
they
a
fell
riddle.
away from God.
You never told us the answer to this riddle, and you
I was
just
waiting
asked
for
us a
some
riddle.
answers. The thing about that's interesting to note here is the fact that they're in the promised land. But remember, it's during the period of the time of Judges.
Fell away from God.
So why do you have to answer it like that? Is that the right answer? So yeah,
If you're trying to
again,
gauge the time, they kept falling away from God.
Yeah, this is a time where the Bible tells us every man did that was right in his own eyes, and they were constantly falling away from God's will, following other gods, getting in trouble with God. And so when you see a famine in the Bible, especially in a situation where they're in a land that's supposed to be flowing with milk and honey, it's a promised land, and it's barely been a couple generations, then you see that there's no food. That's an obvious sign of God's divine retribution against some acts of the people. But what does Elimelech do? Instead of being faithful, which is commanded by God, not to do and not to go anywhere, he actually picks his family up and leaves the promised land, leaves the area where God says don't, and goes to the land of Moab in search of an easier life and to sustenance for him, his wife, and his 2 sons. Not only does he go off to a land that he's not supposed to, with people he's not supposed to be with, but he allows the marriage of his 2 sons to intermarry with the people, which again, another commandment by God not to do. So you can kind of see where the slip up is here.
Orpah.
Yes. One of them marries Orpah, and one of them marries Ruth.
Now, they
so
obviously were not the only family to do this. This was probably something that was going on at that time where people were like, screw this,
I don't know.
I'm out, let me leave.
I really don't know about that. And the reason I say that is because when they return, it's such a big deal for everybody. Like, oh my gosh, Naomi's back. Like, it says word spread throughout the city. They're like, we couldn't believe they came back. She's been gone for 10 years.
Yeah, because these cities aren't big. So when somebody comes home, like, people notice.
I mean, I guess, but it's also.
But there was also famine in the land. And with famines, normally people will leave to go find, because they don't want to die. So they go somewhere where they won't die.
And we've seen that happen even in the book of Genesis with Abraham, with Jacob. But here's the difference. Like Jacob in Genesis 24, he actually inquires of God before going down to Egypt where Joseph was. And God
Jacob doesn't really count because the laws didn't exist yet.
That's a good. I mean, that's one way to look at it. But I mean, it's evident in the fact that there was a lack of faith from Elimelech's part, and at least the way he lived, to be so separate, to have his faith tied to the provision that the land was providing, and for him to abandon it was a big deal because the Israelites were given that land and they fought for it, and there was so many.
Or you could look at it this way
for them to obtain it.
I mean, yes, you're right. Elimelech.
I want to hear your.
Well, earlier you asked basically why this story? Why is this story in the Bible? Because it has there's nothing in there that shows any miraculous things happening or any big things.
Well, yeah.
We know that Ruth is one of the ancestors of Jesus. So if this story never took place, then we would never have David, and then we would never have Jesus.
Yeah, it's extremely influential.
So,
it's an extremely important part of history.
What is the most important part in this story at the moment is there was a famine in the land. And because God let there be a famine in the land, he let there be a famine in the land, right? And he knew that there was a man in that land that probably lacked trust, and he needed to get that man out of there.
And he hated greed.
God's playing 3D chess.
Okay, so that's where, and we're going to bring up this topic later, but when you describe what it means, what does divine providence mean?
Josh froze in the weirdest face.
He's not frozen, he's there. But God giving man free will still operate and allow his plans to come to fruition, even in spite of our best attempts at not doing the right thing in the right situations. Like God will use the natural world and natural events in order to further advance his will on humanity. And his will was our sanctification by the blood of Jesus to bring him to bring him to the earth so that we can be saved by that redemptive sacrificial atonement.
In spite of Orpah.
In spite of Orpah and Ruth. But I mean, the Moabites, they weren't good people. They weren't, I mean, even though they come from Lot and they come from that same family of Abraham.
I don't know. Boaz kind of seemed
Nephi?
like he was a pretty solid dude.
Boaz isn't a Moabite. Boaz
Yes, he
is
isn't.
part of
He isn't.
Israel. It's Ruth that's the one that's outside. And it's like the only other thing we know about the Moabites, other than they
Orpah
started
was,
with an
though.
incest,
Orpah.
is that, you know, remember the king Balak of Moab, whenever he called Balaam to come and curse the Israelites, and then later he sends out the Moabite prostitutes to swindle, or to kind of tempt and sway
Swindle.
away the Israelites. And you know, I mean, I wouldn't say swindle; they were just straight up tempting them. But it's specifically commanded in Deuteronomy 7, verse 3, 23, verse 3, do not intermarry. And they call out the Moabites by name in chapter 23, which is interesting. So it's like, don't do that. But they spend 10 years out there. It's 10 years ago. And then obviously, not only is a famine, you said a famine is God's divine plan working 3D chess in order to push him out, to get with Ruth, to bring her in. I think it's more of the famine was the repercussion, because that's what God said. If you disobey, like remember in Deuteronomy, he had a list of blessings and a list of curses. And it goes into like, you will have victory over your enemies. They will come at you one way and depart from you 7 ways. And then you will be plentiful and rich, and you will have, he literally says, the land will be overflowing. You will plant a vineyard and get 100-fold back. And he says like that is in the Old Testament, when you see famine, it's a direct example of God's judgment upon your actions or your disobedience to his law. So
what are you
in
saying
this
here?
instant, he didn't desire to put a famine just to bring Ruth in there. But in spite of the Israelites falling away, he used it to show his plan to bring in Ruth. Just like with Rahab, she was adopted because of her faith, but he didn't take them there to get Rahab. Rahab took advantage and witnessed the truth and therefore gave her life. Ruth, because of the situation was brought to her, she and Orpah are two very opposite figures. And we'll see that, you know, Elimelech dies, Mahlon dies, and Chilion dies. And this is, again, a further example of God's judgment, probably because of the way they lived.
He was chilling too hard.
And they were in the wrong place. And so now you have the rest of the book continuing with Naomi and her 2 daughters-in-law, no grandsons, nobody there, in a land that they're not supposed to be in, with nothing. And it says, if you read in continuation, that Nathan, read from verse 6.
Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore she went out from the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah.
So I was doing a reading and I was studying this, and this isn't my original like idea or thought, but it was an interesting point that I heard brought up about this portion. The fact that she arose because she had heard that from the country of Moab that the Lord had visited her people. She had to hear that God had visited from somewhere else, where she, in all rights and retrospect, should have been a direct recipient of that encounter with God. But because she wasn't there where she should have been, her husband didn't put her where she should have been, they were in a foreign land with a foreign people, experiencing loss and heartache further than just a famine, instead of maybe having that experience where they would have been able to be in a famine and then see God visit and be able to have that personal experience. When you don't live where God calls you to live and you're not doing what you're not called to do, then you experience loss in what you're supposed to experience with God. Like, you miss out on the experiences God has.
Save the greater meaning to the end.
You
have to hear about things that you should have been a direct
instead of
recipient
experiencing
of.
them.
Exactly. It's unfortunate, and again, I thought that was a really good point that I've heard before, and I was like, man, that had me look at it a completely different way.
I like that point, because it's true. If you're not where you're supposed to be, you'll just be hearing about God.
Yeah, it's like
instead of experiencing.
Just remember, even with Deborah and Barak, when they were on the mountain, she's like, now go there, and then following those exact instructions, and then go now. And he went, and we didn't know why, but it was so that he could put the chariots of iron at a disadvantage from where they were lined up to be encamped against Israel. And this is the opposite version of that. They were where they weren't supposed to be, doing what they weren't supposed to be, or doing, and God visited his people and where he said he would be, and they weren't there. But to Naomi's credit, she didn't just allow that experience to hear about it and just move on. She said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go back to where I'm supposed to go. And that's huge to me.
And she took her daughters-in-law too.
Yeah. For now. Actually,
Well, they did
the opposite.
it wasn't their
Kind of.
idea to go there in the first place. So now,
Well, they're
like,
from there. That's their land, worshiping whatever gods they worship.
Yeah, she told them not to come. but,
Exactly.
you know.
So there's actually a bunch of different things that she says not to come. But how many times does she say?
Orpa.
Yeah, she kind of gives them a.
Go, return each to her mother's house. The
Mm-hmm.
Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband.
So that one first calling, the first thing she says is go so you can find rest in the house of your husband. So fine, you're young enough, remarry. I have nothing to give you because even during the rites of the Israelite rites, remember, of redemption, there would be nobody to redeem them and nobody to give them. She has nothing. She has no husband. She has no sons. There's no younger son that can grow up and marry. And we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a major theme that we've talked about before, but a lot of it is centered around this idea of a redeemer and what a redeemer means. But this is the first time she says go, and
They said, no.
and so they kissed them, their voices wept, and they said, surely and then this again, if you read verse 10,
Surely we will return with you to your people.
and then so obviously both of them at first are like, no, we're devoted to you, we're ready to go with you wherever, you're our family, we've been together for 10 years, we married your sons, and you're all we have right now.
And she said, my name is Naomi, not
That's it.
Shirley.
But Naomi said,
I'm sorry. I every time
Whose
I
phone
see
is that?
Shirley. Turn back, my daughters.
Yours.
Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight and should also bear sons, would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me.
so Naomi recognizes here that these devastating instances and occurrences that happened in their life was a result of the hand of the Lord going against her, which is again another credit to Naomi witnessing and being able to discern the situation for what it is. But this is a really important place to kind of reestablish this idea of levirate marriage, where the living brother of the one of the deceased would be responsible for marrying and impregnating the widow in order to establish an heir for the future inheritance, and by thus being able to carry the inheritance further through the generations that God gives them. This was something that was instituted in Deuteronomy 25, and the example is also found in the story of Judah and Tamar, if you guys remember that story in Genesis 38, where you had Tamar that wasn't, one son died, and then the other one pulled out, and he wasn't supposed to, so that he specifically doesn't give an heir. God struck him down. The youngest one was too young, and you guys remember the story. If you want to listen to that episode again, you can go back to our Joseph series, where it's right after, what episode is that? What is that, 27? 28?
that would be the 20s. Yes,
It would be somewhere in
'Cause
the
Moses,
20s, but yeah, no.
Moses was I remember like the teen.
But this was like such a again, it's called levirate marriage, and what would happen is if the Redeemer refuses to do it, it was so dramatic that the one that was not redeemed could take that individual to the court or to the gate where the elders would be gathered, and then she would take the shoes off of the person's foot, throw them, spit in his face, and then say that you refuse to, what was the exact word? There's you refuse to continue on your brother's line or something like that. Like, it was a very public and embarrassing.
So it's kind of like taking the glove off and slapping them. In the face
Slapping
with the
somebody
glove.
and saying, I declare a feud. So, yeah, like straight
Yes,
up like
yes,
that,
yes.
but a little bit more like insane.
Yeah.
But she's like, even if I got pregnant right now, had babies, how long are you going to wait for him to get old enough to be able to marry you and then give you a child? Like, by then you're going to be too old, and so
bear children.
So why would you even keep following me? So this
Don't
is
you know we die at 28?
this is another instance where Naomi's trying to send them away because she wants what's best for them. And what happens here is that they
Well,
both lift up their
she's
voices
going
and they
to-
weep.
They weep for sure. Yes.
They wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her.
And that's probably one of the most important verses there in the Book of Ruth right there. And then following in verses 16 through 17 is one of the most famous
What
passages
Ruth
biblically.
said.
Ruth's report, whenever it says she clung to her, and then Naomi's like, why don't you go? Your sister-in-law has already returned. But Ruth says this. Again, this is a very, very beautiful passage in the Bible.
But Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you, for wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me.
And this is right here a perfect example of the difference between two very similar people. Two people that you could, and there's so much allusions and connections to a Christian repentance or a Christian life to see, like, when you're confronted with something difficult and you come from the same place as somebody else where one person would turn away and they feel like they're rightly supposed to turn away, then you have somebody else who clings to Jesus as opposed to lets him go. And the covenant essentially that Ruth makes here with Naomi is one of full devotion and full service. There is nowhere to go back. We don't know if Ruth had family left there in Moab or if she was an only child or an orphan or what it would be, but she gives herself totally over to Naomi. And what we understand here is it's not just Naomi, but we know that we don't know what happened with her marriage specifically, but the influences of the God of Naomi and the order of the Israelites and this life that she was witness to living.
She's already spent 10 years, right, with Naomi. She probably got married into the family when she was, what, I don't know, let's just say
15.
Let's just say a modest 16, 17 years old. So she has spent from basically almost like her childhood, right, her teen years, to now her mid-20s. She spent more than a third of her life with Naomi. Naomi has now become basically her mother and the person that she looks up to, and she sees that, man, this lady, this woman who has lost her husband, who has lost a lot of things in her life, is still honoring her God, still, and just, you could tell who a Christian, who a believer is, just by the way they act, by the way, they carry themselves. So she probably admires Naomi in that way. And then now it's awesome because it seems like this is a full declaration of, I am now leaving my people and I am going and I want to be a part of your people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just an example of her leaving behind her culture, her
It's as easy as that. If only everybody was able to do that back then, everybody would be Israelites.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's what God wanted. He would accept anybody who would turn over and give their life fully.
Not really. She did get married into an Israelite family, so.
That's true. I mean, there was certain, not everybody would, I should say, but this declaration of loyalty on Ruth's part is famous. It's read at weddings. It's read at very heartwarming moments, and it's just a really telling passage to show us the character of Ruth.
It's usually read at graduations.
Graduations, is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was about
funerals.
to say, why?
Wherever you go, I will go.
Yeah, no.
Funerals, Josh?
Yeah, jeez, Josh. But Nathan, if you will read just the next few verses here, now we see that after she sees that she was determined to go with her,
my funeral,
she stopped
Nathan,
speaking to her.
I want you to read that. Wherever you go, I will go.
No.
I'm going to put that there now.
I'm going to put that in my will. Nathan
if I die before you, Nathan, you have to show up and read that.
All right.
Thank you, Josh.
Very morbid.
Yeah, now I'm sad. You're about to have a child. God bless you with many years.
Like your seventh kid.
I'll probably be like 99.5.
I'm glad that Nathan.
I'm glad that you think I'm still gonna be kicking.
Should be telling us.
Nathan, you'll be like what, 110?
You know what's crazy? I think I'm gonna outlive both of you.
Probably.
That's what's funny. All right, man. Let me read the next few verses because
this now sets, after she determines to go with her, we kind of continue the story on and kind of capture a couple details that'll be very important to the plot of the rest of the story.
When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. Now the two of them went until they came to Bethlehem, and it happened when they had come to Bethlehem that all the city was excited because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" But she said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me?" So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest.
All right, so I'm not going to have you read the rest of it. I mean, you're just going to read the entire Book of Ruth tonight. I was just going to say a couple.
Well, I mean, it's only like a few more chapters now.
Yeah. Go ahead and just keep reading. But it's fine.
Did it sound like she was complaining?
I don't know what you did, but your audio is different.
This is like an amuse-bouche of a story.
It's still a story, but I mean,
it's a palate cleanser.
It's another.
The Lord striketh you down, and then I love you, mother-in-law.
It's got everything.
I will always follow you.
It's got
who is that man?
Drama, intrigue.
Who is that woman?
Okay, that's not what happens, but all right.
Sleep at the feet of my bed.
That's not. He doesn't tell her.
I know he doesn't. I'm just making stuff up.
I mean,
but remember how I said earlier that there was a big kerfluffle or to do about them returning back to Bethlehem. Like that was a big deal that was mentioned. That
was the big deal. They said, "Hey, it's Naomi." Such a big kerfuffle.
It wasn't them that said it. It was Naomi's the one that kind of like freaked out and said, "That's not who I am anymore." But if you look at it in this way, all those people, because they knew her husband, right? So when they got married, they probably got married in the city. They left, and there must have been people that Ephraim, whatever is that how you say Ephraim? Huh?
Elimelech.
Ephraim was someone else.
He's from the tribe of
Ephraim.
Elimelech must have told some of his buddies, like, "Hey, man, this is my good idea. I'm gonna go," and they all said, "Hey, that's not a good idea. And if you do that, things might happen." So now Naomi returns, and everybody sees like, things don't look good. Things don't look too good for them. They're returning. They probably look like they're all rugged and all that, just barely
poor,
barely getting by. And now they're coming back looking for bread. They're like, "Give me some of this bread."
No, I mean it's so a couple things I noticed in this part is just like you said, they call her Naomi, but she calls herself Mara, which is the word for bitter.
Mara.
She's like, "I've left full and I've returned empty." Another again telling of that state of, even though it was a famine and they felt like they were probably empty, realizing in hindsight
I don't
she
think that's
returns
super
back.
I don't think that's really that good of her to do that. Like that was partially in her, in a way of just kind of like, honestly, yeah, she has a right to complain because it's not like
she lost her children, her husband, and she's poor. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't see Job doing that, right? Job didn't go out and start like, "Don't call me Job anymore." Yeah, but he didn't.
He says, "Cursed is the day that I was born and conceived." Like
but he didn't rename himself a whole new name just because.
I feel like he did. He's just like, "Call me sadness because it all hurts."
Call me depression.
No, but one thing that's interesting about the Book of Ruth is that she says, "Call me Mara,"
and I will call you tomorrow.
But there.
That was actually good. I like that.
But I gotta give that one to you. But there is nowhere in the Book of Ruth where anybody refers to her as Mara.
No.
Yeah, because they're all like, Naomi. "That's silly. I'm gonna call you Naomi because that's your name."
Yeah, and they were all probably like, "That word doesn't exist." What is she talking about?
That's dramatic. It's bitter. I'm starting it now. Trust me, it'll pick up.
It means bitter.
That's not.
That's what she was like. It means bitter.
Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, there goes that point. I was just trying to be like, Bible saw her for what she is.
Nobody ever.
Because you can't just change your name unless God changes it.
Nobody ever talked to her again. She was a terrible person.
She definitely wasn't, because
I bet you she was still a happy person, and people were just like, that was just that Mara. That was a whole phase. Like that was her Mara phase.
I wouldn't say it's a phase. Again, she lost her children and her husband in the span of 10 years.
I mean, what's children and husband in a span of 10
But
years?
she lost everything.
Her freak out moment where she freaked out on everybody in the city, just like there was a moment, and then she went back to being
What
her
do you think she
normal
thought of
self.
Ruth? She was like, "Why is this person? I don't have anything."
She just kept following her.
Ruth is like, "Do you have inheritance?" Like, "No, dude, I'm broke."
Speaking of which, she probably saw in Ruth is what we see. Is what we see in chapter 2 as we continue, is probably the reason she's like, she knew certain laws from Leviticus that would be very beneficial to somebody in her position. Certain laws such as gleaning laws. And if we continue on, we see that there was a certain relative of Naomi's. And Nathan, just read the
rest of it.
No, just read 3 verses. Just 3 verses.
There was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth, of the family of Elimelech. His name was Boaz, So Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him, in whose sight I may find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." Then she left and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz. Just happened to come upon.
Just happened.
Who was of the family of Elimelech.
Divine providence.
All right. You want me to read the rest?
No.
All right.
Because
That's
you're
the
not
first
reading
four.
the whole book.
Yeah,
It's
first
fine.
three. But she gleaned.
So gleaning was a very important law from the God to his people that was established in Leviticus 19:9. It says there that when you reap a harvest of your land, and this is God talking to the Israelites, when you enter into a promised land and you reap a harvest. Now again, it ends telling us that this was at the beginning of the barley harvest, and there's a certain amount of time that takes place in the timeline of the story. It's over a certain amount of weeks, but at the very beginning, we understand that somebody that is traveling, sojourning, or is a widow or homeless, essentially, would be able to do something called gleaning from the fields. And what you do is you shall not reap your field right up to the edge, neither shall you gather up the gleaning after your harvest. After you shall strip your vineyard bare, neither shall you gather the fallen grapes in your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. And then Deuteronomy 24 reiterates this in verse 19, saying, "And you reap your harvest in your field, forget a sheaf in the field. You shall not go back to it and get it. It shall be for the sojourner, it shall be for the fatherless and the widow, that your Lord, your God, may bless you in all the work of your hands." So God's...
What if you just
there,
forgot
So if
half
you
of
forget
it?
like a big... But yeah, you have to leave it there according to the commandment of the Lord. Like you're not supposed
But
to
what
go
happens
back
if you
for
don't?
whatever you leave. I mean, this is... So there's a condition there. That the Lord, your God, may bless you and the work of your hands. So if you're somebody that doesn't do that, I'm assuming God's probably not going to bless you, because remember,
Wait.
in the time of
So
the,
gleaners go to the farms and the vineyards.
I don't like that word. It sounds derogatory.
No. So
Gleaners,
She gleaned.
these gleaners, all right,
those
these
who
gleaners,
glean.
those who
She
glean,
went and gleaned in the field.
they would go and they would
Oh, we're
just
gonna get flagged, I
stand
know
there
it.
and just
Why? What
wait
is
for
wrong
the
with
person
saying
to see
glean?
what they forgot.
No, they're not. So there's a section of the edge of their harvest field that was
Or
left
there's a
specifically
portion
for
that
them.
gets forgotten.
It's
You literally
usually- it
just
was like
said
a
that if somebody
practice to leave
forgets-
it there on purpose. That is the portion in Deuteronomy. Yeah, it says when you reap your harvest and you forget a sheaf in the field. It doesn't say leave your entire harvest there, but a sheaf is a single bundle out of the entire field. If you forget one or two, don't go back for it. Obviously, if your entire harvest was forgotten or you only had power for one trip, you're not supposed to cut your harvest in half. It's kind of one of those things where it's understood that it's for the widows, for the fatherless, for the orphans, for
They
the
most
people
likely,
traveling
yes,
that
you're
can't-
right. They left
Yeah,
a
they
certain
did this-
portion, just like, okay, that portion will be for them. It's almost like a tithe, in other words.
Yeah, and exactly, but it's for doing good to others. And what's important
That's
to
really
note
nice.
too is that in verse 5 it specifically tells us that Boaz refers when he takes notice of this woman that comes into the field, right? And
The
when he
gleaner? Of
course he
asked-
does.
When he asked the head of the reapers that were there collecting all the harvest, he was like, "Who is this girl?" And they kind of tell him, "This is."
Who's that lady?
Keep singing.
Who's that lady? Whose young woman is this? That's what Boaz said.
Yeah, so he catches her attention
verse
immediately.
5.
And the servants pretty much tell her that this is the Moabite woman that came with Naomi. And
She said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves."
so one thing we notice as well is that he refers to her as a young woman. Naomi was not a young woman, and this is a difficult physical task. And it's mentioned here that she's noticed by the reapers who have been there from early morning to this point in the late afternoon, and she had only taken one short break. I don't know if you've ever like beaten and threshed wheat before to separate the wheat from the chaff.
I do all the time.
But it's hard work, it's physical, she's collecting all
Yeah.
day and barely getting any rest for it. Now, her being with Ruth, obviously, or Naomi, that Naomi's older, she's also providing for Naomi. And this is a beautiful thing to see that she's out there. She requests, like, hey, we're kind of poor, and I didn't know about this, but according to your laws, which I learned being married to your son, there is something called gleaning. Because again,
To
why would
glean.
she know that this is a thing?
Yeah.
So she asks of Naomi, let me go into the field and glean so
Sounds
that we can have something to eat.
Like her husband was that type of guy that always found loopholes in getting free things.
No.
Well, I mean, you only glean if you
Well, the
lose your husband.
dad,
I'm done with this.
in a time
Right? Is
of
that not
Yeah,
in a time
no,
of
that's-
struggle,
if you-
You're a widow.
decides
you
to
have to be a widow
leave
to
to
glean.
go find to go find a better thing, and I don't know. It's kind of like the Lamech story, you know, with was it Lamech?
Lamech.
Lamech,
His name is Lamech.
What about it?
and then he teaches his daughter is basically kind of as deceptive as he was, you know, and
I don't think he was trying to teach her a loophole. I mean, I think really what the kid has brought about is like maybe the Moabites don't take care of their widows.
well,
And he was probably telling
he
them
married
about
a
his
Moabite.
culture, like, hey, you know, the Israelites, we take care of our widows. You know how? They glean.
Again, if I hear the word glean one more time,
That's
I'm gonna
what
lose
it
my
is.
mind.
That's what it's for.
I get it, but okay. So she happens upon this field that happens to belong to
I'm
Boaz.
not saying glean to be funny.
I'm just saying. So this is, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the episode, and we brought up this idea of divine providence. This is a very important theme throughout the Bible, and it's where God's governance of all events and things in the world happen for a specific way and purpose for his purpose and plan, despite the mistakes and sins of humanity. Not choosing them, but in spite of them, and then, of course, using them. But it doesn't plan them. I think it's a very important distinction to understand. Romans chapter 8 is a very famous, verse 28 is a very famous verse, and it says, "We know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." We've heard this verse, but this is another example of like everything that happens, even if it sucks, even if we make mistakes, God has our good in store and in mind as long as we love him and we turn back to him and go to him. So it's very important to understand this idea because it wasn't by accident. Obviously, they're in a small town of Bethlehem, but there's other fields, there's other people. And again, it's interesting here that, you know, this interaction that they have for the first time when they meet, Boaz is very, very kind to Ruth. He recognizes her, but then if you read from verse 8 in chapter 2, Nathan, read.
No. Do not go to glean in another field, nor go from here, but stay close by my young woman.
A quick note, this is a very
Why
funny...
do you keep
This is a very funny verse to me. I just can't. The way you keep accentuating glean. Don't say you're not. When you glean from another,
not.
it's just the way you're
He's
saying
just
it.
reading
It's hard
the
to
word.
say without
Glean.
doing that.
Okay,
It's
I'm
hard
sorry.
to say glean.
I'm sorry. Verse 8 in chapter 2 is very funny to me just because it's like while we're here, I almost got like transported to like a different time biblically, but it kind of reminds us that, oh yeah, this is still a harsh time in Israel. If you go somewhere else, very good chance that bad things might happen to a young woman on her own in a random field.
You ain't gonna be gleaning there.
Yeah, it's like I remember it's like, oh yeah, it kind of sucks in Israel at that time. They're not very good people. It's the time of the judges, and everybody quote unquote did what was right in their own eyes. So Boaz, witnessing this young woman, probably attractive, was like, hey, stay here. Like I will take care of you.
I hope I hope he said it in a caring manner, not like, why don't you just stay here? Then it's a totally different type of...
No,
He
actually
had-
the opposite.
he had his
He
intention.
really he never made a move. That's kind of what we're going to get from Boaz as a character. He was wealthy. He was
Seems
older.
like he's a wise man, and wise men
He doesn't
don't
know if
make those moves just like
well, he
instinctively.
had wealth.
patience,
Which is
my
interesting
friend.
to notice.
Patience.
Yeah. But it was almost too late. We're going to get into it. But
I think he was a wise man because the way he greeted his reapers, that to me told me he's a wise man. The first he says, "The Lord be with you." That's how he greets people. So I think he was a godly man.
Of course he was.
Like, he was a wise guy. He wasn't like he was like a good.
he
guy.
wasn't like a creepy dude. And we don't know if he was a widower or if he was somebody that just never married
Not
up
just
until
I
this
mean,
point.
bro.
But
He
again,
clearly called out Ruth. Like he's like, who is that girl? You know, like
who's
that
that
one.
lady?
There was a bunch of other
He's like,
ones.
whose woman
but
is this? Maybe he's implying this has to be somebody's woman.
Yeah, he's like, let me check and see. She doesn't belong to somebody right now already. You know, I haven't.
He was
seen her
definitely
around, 'cause
infatuated
she's
with
not
her.
an
Like,
Israelite.
he liked
100%. But again, we see from Boaz, again, he's somebody of substantial wealth at this point, or at least compared to other people around him. In the Old Testament, the promises of the blessings of the Lord, according to Deuteronomy, are material. The Israelites would judge based on how successful you are, how much God blesses you, and how godly you were, because that's how God laid out his promises. He laid them out in the Old Testament or in the book of Deuteronomy as very material blessings that you will be evident, or that will be evident in your life, because God is the one that gives increase to harvest. He multiplies flocks. He's the one that gives many children. And these are ways they used to measure wealth and status. So Boaz, somebody that remained in that famine land of Bethlehem during that time when other people were leaving, like Elimelech, he stayed. God multiplied his inheritance. And obviously, like Nathan said, just from the little bit of we see in his character and his words, we know that he was a godly man, a righteous man. And it mentions that he's a good guy in the Bible. But he has this interaction with her. He tells her not to go anywhere and does more. He actually sits her down for like a meal and makes sure that she's fully fed.
And gives her bread to dip her bread in the vinegar.
And he, like, they have like kind of like a first date where
with
they
the
talk a little bit.
reapers.
Yeah. And
he's hitting on
it's
her.
like, not a, it's kind of, I mean,
He passed parched grain to her.
so there was already cleaned up.
That's
like,
the sign
it wasn't
right
just
there.
the gleaned.
That's the sign.
It's not just, he gave her not just a portion that's from the glean side, but the part that they collected, they'd already cleaned up. So it takes some of this, and she ate her fill, it says. Like, she ate until she was satisfied.
And kept some back.
And kept some, which is really interesting to note. Like, she didn't hold back. She took advantage, and what
she's like a chick that when you order ribs on the first date, eat that bad boy right in front of you.
And she's like, you know, she'll not take advantage of you, but like feel comfortable in the presence and like, okay, this is good. And Nathan, read verse 12, because this is a very important verse in the Book of Ruth.
I mean, you jumped way ahead of 12, but I'll read that.
I know, but this is important because this is what he says to her when he meets her for the first time.
Yeah, what he says to her, because he says, like, he heard that all she's done for her mother-in-law, and all the stuff that she said. She's a righteous woman. That's what he heard about her.
Yeah.
So this is what he says in verse 12. The Lord repay your work, and a full reward be given you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge.
So this. I want us to remember this verse because it's going to come in later, but it's just the way he says that, and it kind of acknowledging the fact that she remained with her mother-in-law to take care of her mother-in-law when it didn't make sense and it wasn't in her benefit at all. She could have stayed in Moab, could have got remarried, probably had more children somewhere and had an easier life, but she chose a harder life in faithfulness to Naomi, her family, and her way of life and her God. And Boaz recognizes that.
And he also eventually lets her glean even among the sheaves.
Yeah, so he
Which
tells
is a big
people,
deal.
He tells people, like, don't say nothing to her. She could take whatever she wants.
That's a huge deal, because that's all. Now, at that point,
I could just see the Reapers, like, side-eyeing each other.
yeah,
like,
they're like, hey, man,
man.
look, I know she's righteous and all. She's super righteous. Look at her.
Yeah, I'm
she
sure.
looks really righteous.
I think Boaz just sees her
She's
for
a
her,
righteous-looking woman.
for
Let me
her righteousness.
Her righteousness is excellent,
Oh, my gosh.
but don't let her glean among the sheaves.
Don't let her glean among the sheep. So she gleaned in the fields until evening and beat out what she had. You know, this is kind of going on.
Yeah, so she gleaned in the field until evening and beat out what she had gleaned.
Okay, so, and then after she had taken the food that was left over from their little lunch date, the gleaned provision she gathered,
help but say the
and-
word. It's in the Bible.
and the sheaves
Story
stuff
a
that
lot.
she was given, she returns to Naomi, and in verse 22,
In verse 22,
Naomi witnesses this bountiful return. She's like, where did you get all this?
it is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, and that people.
Oh,
do
sorry.
not-
No, I'm sorry. Verse 20. 20.
Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law,
I'm
"Blessed
sorry.
be
It's verse
he."
19.
And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where have you gleaned
There you
today?
go. That's what I was reading. Sorry.
And where did you work? Blessed be the one who took notice of you."
Oh, she already knew what's up. She was like, somebody likes what he saw. Like that's like an obvious favor was brought upon you.
I rewound
Yeah, it's
twice.
smart and it's wise to send the pretty one to go do the things.
Go figure.
No, but
Who
read
would have thunk it?
read the rest of the chapter. 3 verses. I'm sorry.
Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of the Lord, who has not forsaken his kindness to the living and the dead." And Naomi said to her, "This man is a relation of ours, one of our close relatives." Ruth the Moabitess said, He also said to me, "You shall stay close by my young men until they have finished all my harvest." And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with this young women, and that people do not meet you in any other field." So she stayed close by the young women of Boaz to glean until the end of barley harvest and wheat harvest, and she dwelt with her mother-in-law. And
No, it's not the end. It's literally only halfway through the book. But it's really interesting to see Naomi's reaction here. Again, I want us to see the evolution, because this book is just as much about Naomi as it is about Ruth. I'm sorry.
Listen,
About that.
well, it's just what it sounds like. It's like they need money,
Water everywhere.
they need help. She goes to someone that she knows will probably help her. She
It
knows
happens upon her like cousin's place.
she knows that she's really pretty. Okay, she knows that. Her mother-in-law also knows that. She goes to this place. She meets this guy. She knows that this guy's going to see her. She probably, like, I don't know, threw her hair or whatever.
Not
girls
yet,
do.
but she will.
Whatever
I know,
women do.
I know where you're leading to, but
She goes back to her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law is basically like, you know what? Just keep getting at it, girl. Keep going at it. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get
you
that.
don't go in
prize.
any other field. That's the
Don't,
that's the
don't
one.
go
Just
anywhere
stay
else.
there.
That's where you
Is that
are
what you're
gonna
wearing?
be.
You should change. Yeah,
Wear a little
essentially.
less.
So, I wouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. It's one of those.
this was miraculous that this happened. Miraculous.
It's miraculous. But what's interesting is that whereas
So
literally
happened
a couple,
that she was on that field. So
Yeah.
happened.
Just so happens
So
the wealthy
random.
guy. The
almost like
wealthy
she-
guy's field.
it's almost like she found the biggest field with the most to glean.
You think her husband was like, "Hey, I have this brother that's super wealthy back
And it's
home."
such a
with
Christian
this guy.
conversation. Have you ever seen like when two Christian singles meet and they go on a date and it's like super, they say verses to each other. I think I
I've
don't know.
never done that, and I
What?
dated a Christian church girl.
Okay, not verses, but like they say things to each other, like in a like
You're
they're
my
preaching to
Ruth.
each other.
You're my
Hey.
Boaz.
What was it like to glean? That time I was.
I want to know how
using
many
inflection.
thieves and robbers would use the excuse that they were just gleaning. We
Well,
thought
that's
we
the
were.
thing.
We thought
Remember,
we were clean.
it said the fatherless, the widows, and the.
I love that word so much.
I didn't expect that word to make such a like.
I knew it was. That's why I was
Sir,
like,
Sir,
I
I'm
think
not.
Andrew's
I
in,
am no
nobody's in
thief.
for me.
I am a gleaner.
I'm a gleaner.
You know what's funny? So this is a little bit off topic, but not really. There is a old NFL Films video of like the Super Bowl III of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the coach, I swear, he's like, "Glean, gentlemen. You need to glean." I don't know what he was referencing.
The
but
Bible?
No, it was like a snippet. I'm like, why did he say glean? That word stuck with me.
Is
I
it
think
also
glean
like
nowadays
see
kind of
at the
means
very
like
edge?
shine, like to.
Or yeah, no, that
Shine.
is. It's, yeah. That's what it is.
Like, glean, gentlemen, glean.
Yeah, the definition for glean is to gather information or knowledge, or okay, that's AI. I want the real definition.
Yeah.
AI does
Definition
give
of
real
right.
To
definitions.
gather grain, produce, to gather information or material bit by bit. Yeah. To pick up
Maybe
like little tidbits of information, like glean it, don't lose it, kind of get it all in. But no, it's good.
I'm gonna
All
add that
good
word to
things.
my vocabulary now.
But interesting, notice that it says she did this every day until the end of the barley and wheat harvest. Now, important note that it's about roughly the period of about 7 weeks. It's 6 to 7 weeks it took to harvest all the. So it's not like she went out 1 day, 2 days. This is like weeks and weeks she's out there. I'm assuming
She
that
got
they
to
see
know
each other every day.
Boaz.
They
No.
talk. I
Yeah.
don't think they only had lunch once. You
He
know what
would
I mean?
help
Out in the
her
sun.
He would
Working
help
hard.
her glean his own field. He would be
Yeah.
a gleaning man with a gleaning woman.
Dude, she was like getting a tan. He
Bro,
was getting a nice
he
tan.
would take
But
her
Naomi-
and they would glean other fields.
And Naomi this whole time is getting excited and she's having like this glimmer of hope, whereas she was bitter and empty here. She kind of sees what's going on and she sees the potential for a kinsman redeemer out of
She
Boaz.
sees money.
I imagine a
She
montage
sees money.
of her every night bringing all the surplus gleaning materials, and Naomi going, just
Bring
clapping.
more, my child. Bring more.
Yes.
Yes, go
Did you
glean.
talk to Boaz? Yes, I talked to him, but you know.
He was a
whatever.
little standoffish today. I don't know what happened. He was upset about something.
He didn't smile.
But stay close to the women so that you are not assaulted. Don't forget that. Again, another dark reminder of the times.
Not, yeah.
But anyway, chapter 3, like you said, begins with that time period, kind of like establishing that it's over. And notice that time has passed and nothing has happened. Again, nothing has happened for 7 weeks. You guys said, oh, Boaz was kind of like forward or whatever, but really he was kind of impassive.
We didn't say that.
Well,
You said that.
I don't know if it was
No,
just because
I said it.
I don't know if it was just because he kind of felt like it wasn't his place because of how different they are in age. Because let's assume, and again, if Josh made the assumption that she was 15 or 16, 17 when they got married, then assume she's in her mid-20s here. Boab would probably be in his mid-40s. That's what a healthy estimation would be of the age difference. So about 20 years difference.
So just perfect.
So
According to the Bible.
no, yeah. Anyway, he didn't, maybe he already knew that he wasn't, because we'll see, he brings this up, he's not the closest technical kinsman redeemer. Again, remember levirate marriage, somebody being able to restore an individual with the property, because Naomi comes with property that's inherited to her from the loss of her husband, because her husband had property there in an inheritance, her sons had property in inheritance, but there's nobody to redeem it, it'll get lost. So one thing we have to understand moving into chapter 3 is the idea of what happens at a threshing floor. After this time has passed, the last step of the harvest, the barley harvest, the wheat harvest,
Put it on the threshing
is to
floor.
thresh. And a lot of people don't really understand what that really means.
Prince of Bel Air.
After
To beat it.
the harvest, grain was separated from the straw and the husks by beating it manually or walking over it with like oxen and heavy things. Like they would just walk it over. But a lot of times it was beat, and then you would put it on a flat surface that was smooth and hard, and that's where they would kind of beat it down. And the process of threshing was performed generally by spreading the sheaves on the floor, having oxen and cattle tread repeatedly over them, loosening the edible parts of the cereal grain from the scaly, inedible chaff that would surround it. And you see examples of this in Deuteronomy, Isaiah. On occasion, flails or sticks were used for this purpose. Like in Ruth, they were probably doing it more physically, like actually slapping. Like imagine all day and night, you're beating chaff until you're separating. Then the winnowing process was beginning with winnowing forks were used to throw the mixture in the air. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the Prince of Egypt or the Joseph King of Dreams. Remember the part where they're throwing it in the air and they're catching it in the baskets? That's all I have for a reference in my mind.
You know why they do that?
Because when you throw it in the air, the wind would pull away the chaff and only the grain would come down, and they would grind the grain
Correct.
to make flour.
Correct.
So
my
again,
son.
sorry.
We'll make a farm.
A lot of really explanation, but this is important to know because now we know what happens moving on in the next kind of like the context of what's going to happen.
So Boaz is like the thresh prince right now.
Yeah, this is the hard end part. And Naomi witnesses that up until this point, it was started off great. She's found favor. She's given constant provision from the gleaning, but obviously the harvest has to end one day, and they don't have harvest year round. And nothing's going to happen after this, and nobody's made a move. So, Nathan, if you'll read the first couple verses.
Well, I'll read like the. I could read.
No, I want you to read. Yeah, I want you to read to verse 5.
Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you?
For you.
Now Boaz, whose young women you were with, is he not our relative? In fact, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Therefore, wash yourself and anoint yourself. Put on your best garment and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. Then it shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies. And you shall go in, uncover his feet, and lie down, and he will tell you what you should do." And she said to her, "All that you say to me, I will do."
Okay, a couple things to know. And before you get into it, we'll get into it. I know exactly. I was waiting for this moment the entire episode. I know. I'm aware. And everybody
Take off his
listening.
shoes? Is that code?
No,
for
like
something?
while he's sleeping, you uncover his feet. We'll talk about
That's
that.
code for something, right?
Just kind of. Listen, so far, before we really get, it's interesting to see Naomi become so proactive.
What a
in
miraculous story this is. This is just so miraculous.
It's witnessing the mother-in-law kind of step in and take charge. She's like,
Hey,
listen,
seduce him in his sleep.
no, not seduce him, but make your intentions obvious.
Make the implication.
What do you mean?
That,
Not
like,
seduce him. She tells
He's
him.
not.
She tells her,
Sometimes-
go dress the best
Yeah,
you can.
take a
let
shower,
him eat,
put on some
and
makeup,
drink, and then
gonna
when he
get
goes
drunk.
to sleep, and he's feeling
Uncover
good.
his feet.
And lay
Go
there.
walk in there and lay down next to him. Uncover.
Make sure nobody
his-
sees you.
Uncover his
Come
feet.
on.
I understand how it sounds. I understand. I'm aware.
But
And-
this is.
I don't know what you're
miraculous.
trying to like protect here. Like she pimped her out. She pimped out.
No, see,
Yeah.
that's exactly. I
Yes.
mean, that's not what happened. So, can
Not
we?
really, because she didn't get paid for it. That's pimping her out.
She's been paid the.
Well, she's
entire-
looking to get paid.
Nah, she's looking for her to have her security.
Listen, guys, let's talk about.
I'm
it.
not disagreeing with what is going on. I'm just stating.
I don't
that
think there's
that's-
anything
that's
wrong
what's
with it. I'm
happening.
just saying.
That's what's happening.
It's a very interesting set of instructions. Let's note that Ruth, in obedience, does everything she says. There's so many like important like Bible
So
sermon
good.
that were
So good of her to do the thing that she probably wants to do in the first place.
okay. Listen, anoint yourself, which means she's.
Does
smelled
everything
good.
work out for Ruth in the end of this?
Let's find out. Let's find out. No, it's awful. Actually, no, I'm just kidding.
No, it works out pretty
All right,
well for
so-
everybody.
Remember how I said if in Deuteronomy chapter 25, if you go and it talks about uncovering the feet, and it relates to if the Redeemer refuses to marry the brother's widow because he can, that's his right, he doesn't have to, but she makes kind of like a spectacle of pulling off his shoes and kind of like spitting in his face and declaring this big statement about he refuses to provide for his brother, and and everybody has to witness that this guy is doing that. It's kind of
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
That isn't as much of a relation to what she's asking her to do here as much as I feel like the hem of the garment or the covering is more important here than we're talking about the actual feet. Understand that, and you kind of take Ezekiel 16 with 8 as a clarifying example, but her request was a symbolic proposal for marriage. It really what it is. Like the hem of a garment symbolizes protection. It symbolizes adoption of her in her vulnerable state. His feet are uncovered. I am here. I am vulnerable. And I have nobody to protect me. I need the hem of your garment to cover me as well. Ezekiel 16 with 8, God actually refers and makes a very similar illustration when talking about the Israelites as a people. It says there that when I passed by you again and saw you, behold, you were at an age for love, and I spread the corner of my garment over you and covered your nakedness. I made my vow to you and entered into a covenant with you, declares the Lord, and you became mine. And then it also made me kind of think of that moment of the woman with the issue of blood when she goes forward and reaches in a moment of her deepest weakness after pain, after all the years of suffering and never having anything work out for her. No doctors can help her. She reaches out and grabs the hem of Jesus's garment, and that offered healing and it offered restoration for her. She was restored back to where she was. So this action of Ruth going to Boaz at night, uncovering his feet
restoring.
and laying there until it's a restoration proclamation. It's like hers, like he's not making a move because he thought, and you see by the response that the way he responds very honorably. And
And
I
he
think
says, "Who are you?" That's his response.
it's a beautiful, but he says in verse 10,
After you said, "Who are you?"
no, it says verse 8. Now, please read from verse 8, and it's very important to accentuate verse 9.
Now it happened at midnight that the man was startled and turned to himself, and there a woman lying at his feet. And he said,
Remember, he had been drinking and eating, like chilling after like the hardest part. It's like you celebrate. And it's funny, she was told to do this afterwards. Like, hey, don't bother him after working all day in the sun and after kind of frustrated. And maybe he needs to let him relax, let him eat, let him drink, let him chill, go to sleep, and then go to him.
And he said, "Who are you?" She answered, "I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative."
And then it's like, remember how he called her and said, blessed are you who found protection under the wings of the Lord God. Like you found refuge. And it's kind of like I could see like after a montage of weeks, like he says that he knew exactly what she was saying. He knew exactly what she was implying. And maybe in this final moment, he feels like, oh my gosh, this feeling I've had is reciprocated by something. I could even imagine that she would feel the same way.
Read verse 10. "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you request. for all the people of my town know that you are a virtuous woman.
Very important point, too. I mean, I'm not going to really get too much into that, but obviously her reputation preceded her. Even though she was not an Israelite, I'm sure that kind of spread. But because of her conduct, because of her integrity and her virtue, she was seen as somebody who was sought after and probably approached by other people. There's no way that she wasn't. But
And she didn't go for the young.
and he was like, man, she deserves somebody younger.
She wanted
deserved-
that old bull.
No, she just wanted Boaz. Like, it's not.
No, Boaz. Yeah, he's the old Boaz.
It's not like
I meant
she had
to
a
say
thing for
Boaz.
older men, you know.
Yeah,
She
but
wanted
if
old
he
Bo-
wasn't
Boaz.
rich, would she still want him?
I mean, he said he didn't want nobody young, whether poor or rich. She could have just went for somebody her own age and then figured it out afterwards.
Well,
I
he
don't think
said
the
that.
money mattered as
He
much.
said
Yeah,
it's like a thing. I don't know. He said it. That's
Well, the money
main thing.
never-
It's not her.
They always say the money never matters when there was money.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guy was rich.
But, you know, I'm sure him giving her security, it did matter in a sense, you know.
now
It's, you know,
obviously,
security to her mother-in-law.
having the
whatever.
ability
100.
to redeem not only Ruth, again, remember, it's not just Ruth that needs to be redeemed.
It's
Naomi,
Naomi.
and the property that she owns has to be redeemed as well, supported and paid for, which is something most people would want. But a very important note, again, there is obviously a thought here that in this interaction in the middle of the night, there might have been some naughty play or something like that between Ruth
wasn't.
and Boaz. But notice how continually throughout the book of Ruth, and I want to establish this biblically just for anybody that might have this question, you can see that the virtue and the conduct and just the honor of Ruth and Boaz is continually established throughout the book. Every
It was
time
more of a
there's
thing.
chance-
It's like this is what you could have.
Yeah, like they didn't do anything. They did not have any sexual relation here. This was very symbolic and done in a way that pleased the Lord and that was virtuous. Now, they still were there, and he's like, sleep here until the morning, but kind of leave early.
Yeah, she
Don't-
lay at his feet until the morning.
Don't let everybody see you getting out of my tent and then going and like walk a shaming all the way back home without your, kind of like wisely kept her there. And then when she went, he sent her with a bunch of stuff as well.
Yeah, a bunch of barley.
And whenever she got home and Naomi saw that, she's like, sit still, my daughter, until now, the matter will turn out. The man will not rest until he has concluded the matter this day. Because Boaz had a very important mission. Now, this action, this proposal spurred him to action with the, what is it?
He has to redeem.
No, with
the
the
threshing.
with the word I'm
Cleaning?
looking for. Requited? No, it's like when she reciprocates her
Oh.
her reciprocation of her feelings
Why do you
to
have to
his
use big
feelings that
words?
existed. It's
Wow.
the word that he liked her too.
Exactly.
She liked him. She liked him.
Yeah,
She
that's
didn't just like him.
a
She
high school
liked him.
relationship here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My bad. But
But it's
or
not
with-
high
teacher.
school; it's high stakes.
But there was a
It's the
nearer
future of humanity.
in the law, because Boaz, again, a man of honor, he follows the laws, and that might be another reason why he didn't jump on Ruth to redeem her and to redeem Naomi's land.
He's a
because
wise
there
man.
was a
He's
kinsman.
patient and everything.
There was somebody nearer, a relation that was closer that would have right. And if he jumped in, he could cause a disruption or a problem because it could look like he's just greedy, searching after more land. Like, oh, I just want this and I want her, and it's interesting. And he's kind of wise about how he plays it out. Going into chapter 4, the final chapter of the book, we see that he goes to the gate, the city gate. Now, remember what the city gate means throughout the Old Testament. When we see that someone goes to the center of the city gate, it's a place where they would meet, where they would deliberate, the elders would gather, any type of like judiciary judgment would be passed down, matters of important legal status were carried out there at the gate. And Boaz does this. He gets up first thing in the morning and he doesn't wait. He goes straight after. And Naomi knew what he was going to do. She's like, he's going to figure this out. Like, he's not waiting another day. If he knows you want him and he wants you, this is it. Like, he's going to make this work. But this is the part that gets me. Like, what if the other guy wanted Naomi or Ruth and the Naomi? He was like, "I'll take it."
Doesn't it kind of?
That's kind of what happens.
Kind of what
next.
happens, right?
So he said, "Sit at the gate."
Yeah, let me-
civic and judicial matters. Boaz chooses 10 elders, a very important custom that would be kind of followed throughout the rest of the Jewish history. It's like it's called the Quorum of 10, where it's 10 men are required for certain acts and prayers. And this derived from certain examples from the Pentateuch or the Torah. Genesis 18:31, Abraham intercedes for Sodom, and the Lord relents only if he finds 10 righteous men. He says, if I find 10, I won't destroy it, right? That's when God finally says, if you do that, I won't. And that's kind of where the conversation ended. Genesis 42:3, the 10 brothers go down to Egypt. Numbers 14:27. There was a 10 grumbling spot. Like the number 10, finding 10 in alignment or in agreement to make a decision for the whole. Because even though the spies were not good, there was only 2 good ones, the majority voted a certain way, and that led to the decision being made for the entire camp. So he finds 10 elders or 10 men, righteous men, and kind of finds, quote unquote, he just happens to see the guy he needs. Is like, hey man, turn over here real quick. Let's talk about something real fast. You have a second? Like, anyway, yeah.
So, which part do you want me to read? Any of that? I mean, you want to read verse 4? I can read verse 3 and 4, or 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just start with verse 3. He says, he calls him in, hey, sit down over here and let's have a conversation. This is what he says.
Then he
to them.
said to the close relative, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. And this is where I bet you Boaz's face like kind of dropped, because the guy's like, and he said, I will redeem it.
Well, I mean, Boaz is like, smart. No, because Boaz did it. Notice how he left out a very important detail first to kind of set this guy up a little bit. He wasn't dumb. He knew exactly what he was doing and how he was doing it.
Verse 5 says, then Boaz said, okay, well, on the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance.
And the close relative said, oh,
What? I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it.
Now, it's very interesting to note that this guy here, this nameless redeemer that was closer in relation to Elimelech than Boaz was, he was all for taking land. He was all for taking, and I don't think it was necessarily having a wife that stopped him. Some people debate and kind of conversate about the fact that when it says that all of a sudden he didn't want nothing to do with it.
He just mentioned that she's a Moabitess.
It's a Moabitess. It's something that he considered would pollute his seed and further lose him any inheritance from the land that he already has from God. Because again, the law stated, do not do this. This is against the rules to marry somebody that is not of the tribes of Israel. Like, you're supposed to kind of keep it
let
there.
me spin this the other way, is that when at first he thought that he was going to buy Naomi's husband's portion, and then he hears that he has to buy a whole other piece of land and everything from the children as well, because you have Naomi's husband, and then you have Ruth's husband, and then you also have Orpah's husband, right? But I don't know if that really comes into play here.
No, it all goes back to Naomi. It wasn't like buying extra land, because it's not like Ruth had land. She had no right here. It was all tied to. So it was
yes,
more
but
like
her husband did. Her husband did.
No, because he didn't have anything there. His inheritance was from his father. It would be passed down to the family. That's why they kept it in the tribe. They kept it in the family.
Children
they didn't get extra land. The land that the children had were from the parents, from the father, and then it was inherited, was spread. That's why it was so important that if a dude dies, the woman gets another baby to be able to be born, so that they could continue keeping the inheritance that's already theirs. Because all the land was split up exactly to a specific portion given by lots, and by tribes, by families, by groups, by individual. Like, it kind of came down to a very specific inheritance. So it was important that this guy understood that he would be having to give an inheritance to Ruth, and then Ruth would have to give birth, and then that child would eventually take it, which would lose it for the guy that's giving the redemption. Like, that guy would no longer just be getting a free plot of land. He now has to support that land or give that land to somebody else down the line, and then his seed and his inheritance and then his eventual descendants are now tainted with the blood of Moabites. And it was kind of like, this is too much for me, man. If you can do it, go ahead, because I don't want to do it. Maybe he didn't want to go through the whole portion of getting called out and his shoes taken off and spit in the face, but he definitely didn't want to have to go through the whole extra struggle of going with a Moabite woman as well. And that worked out perfectly. And it's funny that Boaz just leaves that out after he already accepts it. He's like, oh, by the way, you got to do this too if you really want it. It just didn't work out that way.
So then eventually they exchange, like they hit up that StockX and exchange sandals.
No, then he does. Yeah, he's like, buy for that. So he took off his sandals, and Boaz said to the elders,
Yeah, they do
"You
the
are
whole
witness this day."
sandal exchange. I don't know if you guys do. I do it in my business dealings. I exchange my right shoe with my guy I'm doing the deal with.
There's not an exchange. They take him off, casts him off his feet. He like pulls him off his feet.
I exchange it. They did something different.
Well, he makes a very like public just the proclamation. You are witness this day. I've bought it all that Elimelech and all that was Chion's and Malhon's from the hands of Naomi. You're right, Josh, about the three sons, the two sons having theirs. It was all together, but he bought it all, and the woman. Yeah, you're a witness this day. So the people were at the gate, and the elders said, "We are witness," and it simply establishes that this happened. Boaz was able to then go, and it says that Ruth to Naomi was better than if she had 7 sons because of how everything happened. Like for her, it just came out to not only Ruth was redeemed, but Naomi was redeemed through Ruth and her faithfulness and her clinging to her. Like that would have never happened for Naomi if it wasn't for Ruth. Or at least not in the same way. Who knows what this other guy was like, and maybe he would have redeemed it and she would have just hated her life even more.
Everything was coming up Naomi.
But everything kind of was restored to them because of God's faithfulness and God's love and God's redemption for his people. Even if she left, he brought her back and gave her everything that she could want. I can't say that she gave everything that she lost her sons. I don't think anything will ever replace that, and everything will ever fill that hole. But at least her future is established. And we see that through this happy ending, that Ruth,
started having some babies.
She had a baby named Obed. Obed is a very important figure.
Obed.
Because even the women said that a son has been born to Naomi, as if symbolizing her restoration through her daughter-in-law, who has no blood relation to her, except for through Boaz. And that's like as if Naomi had a baby herself. She held it. And it's interesting that, this person was the father of Jesse.
The father of David.
Who was the father of David.
So not too far from David. We're pretty close. We're getting there.
Yeah, we're a couple generations away. Remember, if somebody lives about 120, 130 years.
2 generations.
Yeah, we're that's what happens in the book of Judges. A lot of it overlaps. A lot of it from now on is just going to get quicker and quicker. But
now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. And Ram begot Aminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. And Nahshon begat Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz. And Boaz begot Obed.
What did
Obed
Salmon do?
begot Jesse.
Salmon married Rahab.
And Jesse begot David.
So same line.
Perez was one of the children of Tamar. Yeah, because I remember that was the only Mexican.
Remember we
name
talked about that eventually through the line of Tamar. It's interesting. Isn't it crazy how that happened? You have like Lot, you have Judah and Tamar. Terrible story. Like it's like, oh, I'm going to sleep with this
That's what I'm saying.
And then you have Rahab.
Stories.
Rahab's a harlot, called harlot through the Bible. And then you have a Moabite woman. And it's like, but they find moments of redemption and repentance and devotion to God. And that shows you that even if we, and this is my greater meaning, if I take for the book of, Ruth.
Well, you're already starting it?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's the story. They get happily ever after. They have a bunch of babies, and eventually the book of David happens.
The amuse-bouche.
Obviously, a lot of struggle, a lot of pain happens throughout this as well, because, again, the times of the period of the judges were full of, like, pain and subjugation and slavery and, death, like you said. But God's divine hand God can't be thwarted by anything that we could do. If God's will is for something to happen eventually, it's going to happen in spite of us. That's kind of like what the book of Ruth tells us. It tells us that God is sovereign over everything and in control of everything and is always constantly working for our good. All that he does is for the good of those who love him. That's what Romans tells us. It's no matter... And it doesn't give us a liberty or a right to sin or to do wrong. It's in spite of our sin and our wrong. It's his grace that he gives us that we have this blessing to be called children of God if we repent and if we live according to his laws. I think it's a beautiful thing to see that, God is a God that restores. God is a God that redeems. God is a God that provides for those that are less fortunate, the widows and the sojourners and the fatherless. God is a God who sees you even if you abandon your post and abandon the place where you're supposed to be. It's like God is continually doing this. And even through the book of Judges, God is looking at the people that he chose, he called, he personally liberated and delivered and brought into a promised land who keep failing. And he's not going to relent, and he's not going to give up on his promises. And to have that God, for people to say that that God of the Old Testament is not the same God as the New Testament, this God that we see is so loving and merciful and just filled with love. His
So much
mercies
love.
are renewed to the 1,000 generations. It's like, it blows my mind. And my heart was filled with like just this feeling of like joy and love for God, reading this story and reading the Book of Ruth and really diving through it and figuring out all these things. And again, I thought it was I enjoyed it immensely. Way more than I expected to. I was caught by surprise. Again, the Bible kind of took me by surprise and showed me things I didn't expect. And it's why I love it. It's why I do what I do. It's why I've devoted my life and every free time that I have to
the
this
Bible.
book and the spreading of the word of God to everybody that can hear it, because it's a transforming, living word that can change your life forever if you give it a shot. But that's my greater meaning.
Amen.
Josh.
My greater meaning. How do I do this? Okay. My greater meaning would basically be earlier when we were talking about, and Andrew, you brought up the story of the woman that grabbed the garments of Jesus to be
Be one with
healed.
the issue of blood.
And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, so same thing with this story in Ruth. If that woman with the issue of blood never grabbed that garment, she would have never been healed. The power of God and the power of Christ is there. But sometimes Jesus, like he's there, he walks by you. It is our job, if we are hungry enough, to go and grab it for ourselves. In the same situation, kind of what we see with Ruth and Boaz, there was nothing coming from Boaz. He was there, he was willing, but Ruth needed to take that extra step forward to go and make herself known, to go and to actually to grab it for herself. God's power is there. It's ready for you. So we just have to go and actually press forward and grab it. A lot of us, we wait and we wait because, God sees my trouble. God, he knows what I'm thinking. He knows what I need. He'll just give it to me. No, we have to go, and we see this time and time again in the Bible. We have to go and get it in faith that God is going to provide it for us. And that is my greater meaning.
Yeah.
Yep.
10 out of 10.
That's really good.
Fist bumps.
So the Book of Ruth, I think, is the most commonly said. When people talk about the Book of Ruth, they're like, "Hey, I was surprised at how much I like it and learned." Most people, I hear that said about this book so much, and I've read it.
I'm so basic.
I've read it. Well, that's every preacher, every pastor I've ever taught. Oh yeah, no, actually, I read the Book of Ruth. It's
It's actually really good, guys.
Yeah, it's actually really good. The Book of Ruth is a very curious book that truly there's no like miraculous thing that happens in this story, right? I like the other books of the Bible. It's a story about loyalty and faithfulness and how God takes care of his people, and then through somebody's act of faithfulness and virtue, how God can bless somebody and their generations to come afterwards. But there's not like a fire from heaven or something like that happens in this book. But there are very important places in it, like kind of that mirrors, like you could almost kind of see when Ruth tells Naomi, where you go, I go, kind of like a discipleship, like how the disciples follow Jesus. That's how you're supposed to follow Christ, right? Is kind of proclaiming that where you go, I go, where you sleep, I sleep, where you eat, I eat. That's how we need to follow Christ. And you can use these examples in the Book of Ruth, and that's where the beauty comes in, right? And the fact that Ruth finds her virtue. But I want to take my takeaway from this whenever I read the Book of Ruth, and it's something that we kind of touched base on earlier, and I like that Andrew said it, and then it kind of clicked in me because I was like, yeah, that's very true. You could very easily in life be a person that just hears how wonderful God is, right? It's very easy to go through life and hear how wonderful Jesus is and how miracles happened in that household and how God healed that person you heard about, right? It's very easy in life to see how God can bless other people, how God moves in other people. And then you never become a person that experiences that for yourself. And why? And you ask yourself, why is that? How come sometimes some people just never experience God like they hear about other people's experiences with God? And it's a very simple thing. You have to be at the right place. You have to be in God's obedience. You want miracles in your life to happen? You want things to happen in your life? You better be in obedience to the Word of God. Live your life according to the Word of God. Like, study this book that we go over chronologically at the Greater Meaning Podcast and apply these principles. And then what you'll find is that the miracles you hear about from other people, you're going to start experiencing them in your own life yourself. And that can only be experienced if you are in the will of God. If you cry, and step one of that, and the Israelites do it, you cry out to God. Oh God, I don't have you enough. I need to repent of my sins. You cry out to God. You come back to him. You repent, and then you stay in his will. And it's not going to be easy, because that's when the battle starts. The problem, like I'm experiencing this right now. When you stay in his will, how long can you stay in his will? How long can you stay there until that miracle happens, until that breakthrough happens? Because that's when the storm comes. The storm comes when you accept God, when you accept him into your life. And then the storm starts, and you got to stay steadfast and stay steadfast and stay steadfast. And it's just nothing's working. And then miracle happens. The earth stands still. Fire from heaven, stones hit those soldiers immediately. Things just start to, those seas part, things just start to happen that you never really imagined. And then even the trivial things, like, and I wouldn't say this story is trivial, but like even the small things, like little things in your life are going to lead to big things later on, because because you're in complete obedience of God, and God is in total control of every single step of your life. And that's kind of my greater meaning.
Well,
Boom, bang,
if
pow.
we talk about great, greater, and greatest, I was definitely outdone by both of you guys, and your greater meanings were phenomenal. I was definitely excited, and I'm going to go to church now.
Andrew, your greater meaning was throughout the whole episode. You just had spurts of greatness.
Sorry.
You're the only one getting paid. Shut up.
Yeah. This is all volunteer work.
Bad.
If only that was true.
Yeah. If only it was an actual gripe. One day we're going to be able to do this full time and spread it. And the only way we can do that is with your support, everybody. We thank you so much for those that have been listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us some comments. Send us an email at greatermeaningpodcast@gmail.com with your greater meaning of the Book of Ruth, or questions, or things we missed, or just to say what's up. We love to hear from you guys. We love the emails we get. Share us with your friends. We're on literally every platform you can imagine right now.
We're even on Deezer.
Deezer. There's a lot of different...
We're on Deezer now.
We started, and the people, that's like one of our top downloaded places to get podcasts. I never heard of that place before, but you know what?
Deezer.
We're going to be on everything. And, next time, we're back in the Book of Judges.
To glean.
No. Well, kind of. To glean information, if you will. I'm going to get into a big one. I always say that, but this is one of the top heavy hitters of the Book of Judges, Gideon. It's a very substantial
Gideon.
part. And his sons, and his children. And
Father Gideon had many sons.
70. But anyway, it's going to be, I don't even know if we're going to be able to do all of Gideon in one episode. More than likely, but we'll see how it pans out, because his transitions into another one, and Gideon's a big one, and that's why we kind of like stopped it with Deborah and then went into the Book of Ruth, because that way we just keep it rolling, and we're going to get into David, and we're going to our Samuel, then David, and I mean we still got Samson and a bunch of other
Samson.
Yeah,
Samson
I'm
is
excited.
awesome.
This is going to be.
I love.
It's just going to be. But by the time we do Samson, Josh will be another father of another child. So
Yeah.
Look at the last name, Samsonite. Where's that from?
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. There has to be a famine.
Good night and God bless, or good evening and